Hey gang, oh wait. This game came out this year? Wow, I already forgot. Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing you forget about when you reflect back on it. It's like, yeah, it was this year, was it?
Yeah. So anyway, this is Star Fox Zero Part 1, not Part 0. This came out for the Wii U, like pretty much the system's last high profile release, which is kind of sad actually now that we're thinking about it.
Oh, that's not a positive
Well,
opinion to start
there
on.
was Paper Mario Color Splash.
The last high profile release for the Wii U.
Yeah, okay. The Color Splash and Star Fox Zero, two divisive, shall we say, high-profile releases for the Wii U to go out on.
Yeah.
Well, people had a reason to be
And I
excited
mean-
for Star Fox coming back.
And I mean, not counting Zelda Switch, which is primarily going to be a Switch game, by all appearances. Unlike Twilight Princess, which was a GameCube game that just happened to have a Wii port for some reason.
Yeah, but this was developed by Platinum Games, the people who made Bayonetta, other stuff that's also...
Wonderful 101, the third-party licensed games that we...
Vanquish is one.
Vanquish.
An overlooked one, I might say, because I've heard good things. I've been looking forward
The
to playing
TMNT
it,
game that we just commentated
Well,
over a
yeah,
few commentaries ago.
you know, they've got their vaguely licensed shovelware that just sort of seems to try to ride the Bayonetta formula a little bit, and then they've got their really good games, which are Bayonetta, Vanquish, Wonderful 101. And then there are the really polarizing middle games that don't seem to fit into that formula anywhere, like this one.
I love how the prologue tries to play the opening movie again, and then I skip it because... it's
And
pretty-
Devil May Cry 3 did that same thing, and it pissed me the fuck off.
Oh, there's text on screen? Sorry, I was looking down at my lap reading a book. I'm not too busy to look at the main screen.
Yeah, I'm not going to give the story much crap. I mean, I haven't played through the game yet. I meant to before this commentary, but I haven't had the... I just opened a bank account, and my debit card for it showed up in the mail literally 5 minutes before we started this commentary, so I have not had time to buy and play
It's not too late.
this game.
You can play it as we're commentating.
It is not a reboot. It's totally a reboot.
It's it's bizarre that, we've had basically Star Fox and Star Fox, the original Star Fox on the SNES 4 times now. Star Fox 64, Star Fox 64 3D, and now Star Fox Zero. I mean, granted, the last Star Fox game to come out before Zero was Star Fox Command, which is to put it lightly, a clusterfuck. It is a clusterfuck of continuity.
Could have just continued on from Assault.
Well, Assault continues on from Command, though.
No, Command is after Assault.
I
Just
know
to
that's-
head this off, I know there are a lot of people who like Star Fox Zero, and I know there are a lot of people who really don't like Star Fox Zero. So, let's all be nice to each other. Remember that each other's opinions are opinions, and not all of us are going to feel the same way. I'm actually vaguely optimistic that I'll like this game when I play it, but I also recognize why the controls turn people off, and why the creative direction of the game itself might also turn people off. It's a pretty easy game not to like, by all appearances. And
It really does boil down to whether or not the controls click with you or not. That's like 100%.
And they don't for me.
Because you don't like new things, Ryan. That's
I don't like unnecessary motion controls that overly complicate a game.
I want to head this off too. There is a difference between good control and intuitive control, and they aren't necessarily the same thing. For example, Sonic Riders is a pretty good game, and it does have pretty good control, but you're going to be fiddling with the control for a while before you really get a handle
Before
on
you
it.
click
And
with
that's
it.
if you
And
have
that's
the
even if
patience
you click
for
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a similar thing, except, well, that didn't have motion control. That was just a weird way of controlling a game.
yeah. It takes a long time to. I think the difference between this and I almost said Star Fox Zero. The difference between a game like this and Sonic Riders, I think, is that in Sonic Riders, it really is just a matter of the game. The game didn't need to control that way, I don't think. Whereas for this, obviously you can have the game control like Star Fox 64, and it would be just fine. But the way that the game does control with its motion and its split gamepad stuff does allow
Doesn't
you
work.
it allows you to do some stuff that you just plain would not be able to do with the control stick. Like for example, aiming directly below you as you're flying straight forward. The way that Star Fox 64 controls, you wouldn't be able to do that. And they do some interesting things with that in some instances, but there are a lot of
Very rarely.
I'd say pretty much
Mostly during all range.
mostly during all.
where
In
it
which,
shows up the most.
in which case, you're too busy looking at the gamepad to fly your ship, and you run into stuff.
I didn't have too much of that problem, but I know that
to be
Oh, I had that
honest-
problem all over the place.
To be honest, this game probably would have been like it would have been more worthwhile if it had come out earlier in the Wii U's lifespan.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. You have a Star Fox Zero with this control scheme, and you have a clear view of what people liked and didn't like about it. What parts of the controls were good. If the Wii U were sticking around for a little while, we could have a Star Fox Zero 2 or whatever the hell they would have called it, and they could have ironed out those things. But now we're just gonna have this entire control scheme drop off the map after one attempt. It kind of feels like.
This
Well-
needed to be a 2012 or 2013 game. I 100% agree, because you could probably count the number of games that use the Wii U gamepad for something more complex than a map on like one hand, most likely.
Fatal Frame 5, Fatal Frame 5. I think Fatal Frame 5 might have done it.
Like
That's a lot of fives.
Nintendo Land and Mario Party are the only other two that are coming to mind, and those are minigame collections. So it's a game like this being out at launch would have been a good proof of concept for the controller, and it would have happened at a time when people were more in the mood to give the thing a chance, I think, as well. Because by the time you get to 2016, like, this game was originally supposed to come out winter 2015, but I do believe that Iwata's passing did end up delaying the game.
Yeah, and to be clear, I am not saying that people would have necessarily liked it more at the time, but
no.
maybe the people who didn't like it would have been more forgiving of the concept, and they'll be like, okay, maybe I'll give this another shot in a second game, which does the control better. But we all went into this basically knowing that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, pretty much. This was
So,
a one-and-done thing, and now we're not going to see Star Fox for another 5 years at the very least.
Well,
Well, yeah, I think you're being generous.
we might get a.
Because this game sold horribly.
Oh god! Oh god! Oh god!
You see, yeah, right there. You see what Ted's doing there was representing the sales figures of Star Fox Zero in Japan. Yeah, this game tanked in Japan,
Jeez.
and I don't think it even sold 1 million units in America. Like I'm not even sure.
That's more the
how well-
Wii U's fault than the game itself.
I think
but-
breaking 500,000 in the U.S. would probably be generous at this point. Because
But to Nintendo though, you know what I mean?
yeah, but I mean,
Unfortunately, their standards are way too high.
their standards are way too high. But I mean, granted, Star Fox has never been a great selling franchise. Like, Star Fox 64 did really well, but that's just Star Fox 64. Like, Assault didn't do great. Command didn't do great. It's not the kind of game that has a huge appeal, because rail shooters like this are a pretty niche market. They're very short, and you have to, in order to get your bang out of your buck, you have to count on the player being willing to replay the missions for higher scores and things like that. So, you're not gonna.
I don't think it's asking for much because the game's not very long.
No, and I did have fun replaying it. Like, I do like the arcade mode in this, but I guess I should. I am the one who recorded the game. I should mention that, like, I'm not a huge Star Fox person. When I was growing up, the only Star Fox game I had significant investment in was Star Fox Command on the DS. Actually,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's repetitive as shit, but it's fine. I didn't play Star Fox 64 until it came out on the Wii Virtual Console back in, like, it was probably like 2008 or 9 was when I first played that game. So Star Fox I don't have a huge attachment to it, but I came into this with an open mind and I found myself having a decent time. It's just not something I could find myself really connecting to in a significant way. I'm not sure if there's really anybody, well, maybe like young kids who played this for the first time might end up growing up with the kind of fondness for Star Fox Zero that people have for 64. Maybe, I'm not sure. That's kind of a
Possible.
that's a far-flung future kind of.
Well, they're so similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, ultimately, this kind of has the same problem for me that Skyward Sword does, in that they changed stuff that wasn't the problem, and everything that was the problem they left alone.
What would you say what was the problem beforehand?
Basically, just not understanding how the levels design worked, and using the same story over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Here they have basically aside from one or two of the gyro wing stages, it's the exact same kind of level structure as before.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
even though they add the whole walker thing, they don't do anything with it really.
Yeah. But you know why they kept it strictly formula, though? It's because it's been 10 years since the last
Yeah,
Star
but then
Fox
you go
game.
and change all the controls, which is what everyone was fine with to begin with. So
I'm talking strictly structure,
Yeah.
not in terms of
Oh.
controlling R-Wing.
Fair enough.
They kept things familiar because it's been so long since the last Star Fox game. Really feel needed to keep it familiar so that they can get in those Star Fox veterans, while at the same time keeping it simple enough so that, as Ted was getting at earlier, maybe a younger generation can get into it, and hopefully, what I think Nintendo was going for is people go back to the virtual console, play Star Fox 64, or
well,
hunt down
it's Star
expensive
Fox,
copy
not
of Star
Kingdom
Fox
Hearts.
64
You could
3D.
do something a little different with the story and still have the same general structure.
Like, yeah, it doesn't need to be. It can be a new story without being complicated. Like they could bring back Andros or whatever and not have it be a straight up reboot. Like they could just say Andros came back from the dead because go stop him or whatever. It doesn't have to. Like you don't have to wonder. Okay, if they make a new sequel, do they have to reintroduce Crystal, or like is Panther not? Does he just not exist anymore? Or things like that. Because there are aspects of the story from the non-64 Star Fox games that people do like for some reason. I mean, okay, I shouldn't be that judgmental because I'm the guy who likes Sonic. So we can't make too much fun at Star Fox. But like it kind of wonders like what happens if they make another Star Fox game. Do they pull a new Super Mario Brothers and just retread this again, or like what do you do now? I guess assuming that there's going to be another Star Fox game in general is maybe being a little bit presumptuous, but
I
yeah.
think Star Fox is actually the kind of story that lends itself very poorly to the Mario Brothers retreading formula of storytelling. I think it does need to have a sequel progression in events and character growth of a sort to go,
Yeah, it's not like the story needs to be deep every time, but
No,
It-
deep
You have to do
no,
something to freshen
but,
things up.
As a framing device for the flying around and shooting things, it needs to have a progression. Otherwise, it doesn't feel worth having. That's all I'm saying. With Mario, that story is legitimately the cartoony brand of stupid that makes Super Mario Galaxy 2's weird reboot of Galaxy 1's storyline seem not just a little silly, but also kind of funny. Whereas this is just a little silly,
yeah, I think I get you. I will say that for the most part, though, the game does look very nice. I know
Oh, the
that,
game looks and sounds great.
yeah,
Just I wish I just wish it were attached to a better game.
Emphasis on sounds great. I love the sound direction of Star Fox Zero.
honestly, I don't remember. I didn't really notice any of the sound when I played the game. Like, I think.
Well, I'm not even talking about. You're probably just talking soundtrack. I'm talking just everything. Like when you shoot lasers, when enemies collide with a charge shot, explosions, all that shit. I think it's great in this game.
Okay. The game does chug occasionally. You can
Yes,
you
it
can
does.
notice that especially in Corneria, which is supposed to be the graphical showcase of the game, but whatever. The game tries to run at 60 frames per second simultaneously on the screen and on the gameplay and a gamepad, and it can't always do that. So.
Yeah, that
No,
gamepad
yeah.
is always a strain on the Wii U's performance, unfortunately.
Especially when they're trying to portray two different things at the same time, which is, I think, what's
Yeah.
really causing the chug in Star Fox.
Yeah. Also, before we end this part, you're sticking strictly to the gamepad for cockpit view, right? So we're not really going to see that?
Not really. I switch it very rarely in instances where you just cannot see what's going on.
Because this is a control quirk that's not really told to you directly in the game at all,
Well,
but you can switch the two screens around basically whenever you want.
Shut up.
I think it would be a little bit confusing to actually play that way, but I'll explain more about that next time.
Yeah.
Well, the
plenty
whole
of time.
control scheme is confusing in some sense, no matter what you do. So it's whatever you find yourself comfortable with as you develop your skill with it. But it's an option, and it's an option that's strangely well hidden. But yeah.